So the news broke yesterday, the news we've all been waiting for, that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are going to have a fight. How cool is that? So what's going on in the world of BJJ, and why are these tech titans turning?
I think a few reasons. So I think, first of all, for guys like this, it is like human chess. Particularly, they've actually agreed to a cage fight, which would involve striking. So that's like a whole other level. But if you look at Mark Zuckerberg now, he seems to be competing a lot of weekends. So I think they like it because it is like human chess. It's very physical. I think also if you're in that type of environment, these kind of guys, I'd imagine it's pretty hard for them to switch off. It's going to be non-stop. So they're probably a little bit addicted to that kind of dopamine hit that you get when you're online. So they're guys who are constantly on, they're constantly getting feedback. So I think Jiu-Jitsu gives them an ability to kind of switch off from probably a lot of the stresses that they're having in their day-to-day. But it also still keeps feeding that dopamine rush, because you can't think about anything else when you're doing Jiu-Jitsu. So it's kind of a bit of escapism, but it's still them doing what they like doing, which is using their brain. So I think that's why these guys are really into it.
Now, we've seen, as well as having Dream Agility, we have an MMA gym in the village here at sunny Silicon Valley. We've never been busier, and it's all, people think of it as being something for meatheads, but it's not. What kind of guys now are typically turning up more and more to classes?
It's all business people, and I think a big part of it is people working from home. So I think if you look at how pre the lockdown, you go to Jiu-Jitsu or MMA, most of the classes in most of the clubs were, evening sessions. They're 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I think because people are working from home now, they're not going into the cities, they're not going into their workplaces. They're at home all day a lot of the time. They're not really seeing anybody. So that's kind of caused a change in of itself. People are sort of not going into the cities. So they're looking to train much closer to home. And so what we're seeing is like the 6 a.m. classes now are absolutely booming.
We didn't used to do 6 a.m. classes though, did we?
We didn't used to do them, no, but they're now just flying. So even though people who maybe are still going back into the office, they're still doing these 6 a.m. sessions because they can get in, they can train for an hour, and they can go. They can also, if they're going to be a bit later in that day for whatever reason, or they've got the time, they can do an extra half an hour of sparring afterwards. So it gives people kind of the flexibility there. If you need to go at 7, you can go at 7, but you can stay the half hour if you want. You can stay till whenever you can, and you can go. But then the other big thing has been the lunchtime sessions, and that's what I didn't really see coming. So because people are working from home, there are now those who used to do the 6 a.m. sessions, and they've now decided, actually, I'd rather have a lie-in, and those guys are now shifting to lunchtimes. So the past 3 weeks, we've basically had at least 2 guys on the mat, like one of the coaches opening up every lunchtime for 3 weeks now on the weekdays. So that's just a complete, and that's now starting to get more and more busy, and more of the guys are coming to that because they don't want to get up at 6 a.m. Even though 6 a.m.s are booming, 6 a.m. is still the busiest right now. And that's a complete reversal from when it used to be 6 p.m.s, and 6 p.m. onwards was the peak time. We might run a couple of 6 a.m.s as and when people would do it. So there's been a complete switch, and overall there's just been more and more people giving up the kind of corporate gym. The number of people that ring me and say, I don't like being at home all day, I'm only seeing people on Zoom, and then I go to a gym to lift weights, and it's kind of soulless, and there's all these people, you're waiting for equipment, and you've got people who are Instagramming on equipment, and they're messing around and so on. They're not people that a lot of people want to hang out with. So they're like, I don't want to hang out with those people, I don't want my workout being interfered with, and I find that kind of big corporate gym chain thing where you pay, £19 or $19 a month, where you can train at certain times, they just find it soulless. And so I think they're enjoying the community element of Jiu-Jitsu. There's the kind of close contact, getting to know people, and these are typically, because like we're out in the village as well, people are really getting to know people in the village. So we've got, I think it's like a population of 20,000 here. So people are starting to kind of network and do business networking as well, and discover that there's people that are potential clients that they didn't even realise are living in the same place that they live in. So I think people are seeing all kinds of benefits to it, and it's particularly being driven by professionals.
With regards to, you talked about the physical element there. Obviously, you're getting a workout, you're getting a sweat on, you're learning something new. It's not high impact like playing football. You know, once you turn 30, your knees are shot. You can't really do it anymore. You need to find something else to do. Jiu-jitsu is great. It's very, very physical, very demanding, but it doesn't injure your joints. But the actual physical side of things, of having hands-on on another person, how is that helping people's mental health, particularly the guys who work from home?
Well, what I've seen with jiu-jitsu is people seem to accelerate relationships, I think, far more quickly. You get to know people on a quite a deep level when you're completely in their space. So there does seem to be like an acute bonding that can go on. So I think, I definitely think that there is a bit like how people go for massage, that physical contact is important to people, and they come out of like a massage feeling like very relaxed and like, you know, almost lightheaded, like maybe they've been asleep. It's a kind of unique experience. I think jiu-jitsu has elements of that. So that close contact, that tacit, seems to be very, very important, I think, for people's mental health. I don't know why, but there seems to be and the endorphin release, I think, is a big thing as well. But people do seem to bond more quickly and end up going for drinks together and stuff like that. I think way more quickly than they would if they were doing just regular business networking or meeting people in a social environment or a party or whatever.
Yeah, Friday lunchtimes after jiu-jitsu has become the new Friday night, hasn't it, down the pub?
It certainly seems to have, yeah.
Any advice for anyone who is at a certain age, maybe over 30 or 40 or 50, or we had a 63-year-old guy, businessman who wants to train? Any advice for anyone who's thinking about doing it, but they're worried about going down to a gym and what they're going to find on the mat?
Yeah, I definitely try and speak to the instructor to begin with. And I'd certainly try and say to them, look, if you're not looking to compete and things like that, you're not alone. I think that there's this common number you hear about gym owners now. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA gym owners will tell you, even in the ones that are really heavily competition orientated, they'll say things like 97% of their members have still never actually done a competition. And that does vary. There are clubs that want to compete more and try and steer people down that route. But I think if that's what you're worried about, is the getting hurt side of it, I'd have a chat to the instructor. There's usually a lot of options there. You can start with private classes as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with a black belt, so it doesn't have to be really expensive. You'll find that there's lots of clubs that will do private instruction with a brown belt, purple belt. It'll be a bit cheaper, and you can go one-to-one and work at a pace that you're happy with. Lots of clubs do beginners classes as well. That's another option for you. I personally don't do them. I tend to find that if there's anyone who is going to injure you, and our injury rate is way below, like the worst injuries I get at a club are people playing 5- and 6-a-side football. They go and get injured doing that. So yeah, you don't tend to get the injuries, but I would definitely be speaking instructor. Beginners classes are another option. I steer away from them personally, but some people like them.
That's because they're full of beginners, and beginners can injure you.
Beginners are the most likely people to injure you without doubt. The chances of it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the chances of a purple, brown, black belt who's less than 20 something, if you get a 30-year-old guy within that, they're very unlikely to ever injure you, because usually they have the kind of mental and physical maturity that they know they could hurt you if they really wanted to, and they're not trying to do that, and they're comfortable enough in their own skin not to do that. They don't want to hurt anybody. So that would be my advice. I would definitely advise go and do it. And some clubs have what they call combatives. So there tends to be no sparring in those ones. So if you really want to take it easy, you can go to combatives lessons, and that's really where you kind of just go through the moves, but you don't really spar too much in it. In time, you do really need to spar if you want to be good at this and really test what you can do. But that's a great way to start. I would definitely rather start with combatives than never begin.
Okay, that's that. We've also got a YouTube channel which has hundreds of videos on it now, I think.
Yeah, 600 plus.
We record all our sessions, so if you want to have a wander over to our YouTube channel, you can have a look and see what it looks like on a mat, see the sort of things the guys are doing. So at least you feel like you've been there already. What's the YouTube channel?
It's just SVG Berry on YouTube. If you just search SVG Berry, you'll find it.
Berry is spelled B-U-R-Y for anyone who's not local. That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Glenn, and we look forward to the big fight.